So much of our music practice and training and learning is around what we should do or shouldn't do in sort of these definitive terms, how we physically play the instrument. What are the notes on that page? What is that chord? But there's a much larger aspect to playing music that we haven't even dove into yet. And it's so crucially important for just playing music and enjoying it and also performing it for others. And that is the mental game, the mental side of playing music. If you're like me, you may have had some performance anxiety in the past. This could be anything from just trying to play in front of some friends or family, to preparing for a recital, to performing on stage in front of others. Most guitarists have some performance anxieties. This can manifest in different ways. You can physically get tense, maybe your hands get sweaty, or your mind starts racing with all the worst case scenarios, and you get really distracted. This is interference that can affect our performance and our playing, and it takes us out of the music. And believe me, the audience can feel it too. So what can we do about it? I mean, how can we actually get around performance anxiety? How can we train ourselves to think differently and act differently so that we can just be in the moment and just express ourselves and play the music? Well, fortunately, there is an awesome book called The Inner Game of Music by Barry Green and W. Timothy Galloway. So one of the first key concepts to know about in the inner game of music is this concept of self one and self two. Self one is the inner voice that comes into our head and distracts us when we're playing. It's that pesky, nagging voice that when we're trying to play gets in the way and can take us out of the moment. Like, oh my gosh, there's so many people here. I can feel everyone watching me. Oh my gosh, I feel how tense I am. It's all of these little thoughts in the back of your head that are actually right there in front of you as you're trying to just play the piece or just play the music. So that is self one, the annoying, nagging voice that can interrupt us and interfere with our performance. Self two is the more active state. It's when you're present with the music and everything is just clicking and flowing and you're not worried or distracted. You're just kind of present and playing the music. It's sort of a childlike wonder. So does this sound familiar? Have you heard self one screaming at you and getting in the way when you're just trying to play for other people, or even trying to just have a nice, effective practice session yourself? Maybe you've had a really crappy day at work or something, and there's a lot of things going on. Your mind is racing, and you're just not able to even feel like you're making much progress with the instrument that day. We've all been there, like I said. So how can we actually get self one to just be quiet? Well, there are some good strategies for this. And a lot of it does come down to being present and actually being aware of our anxieties, whether they're physical or mental. You can actually write a list of them down. For me, it's like the classic case of the sweaty hands. Some people have cold hands and the heart racing. Sometimes I'll feel some tension in my neck or my shoulder. I mean, these are all things that are sort of physical manifestations. Mentally, sometimes I can definitely get a little bit distracted and just be thinking too much about trying to play perfectly. So what's really interesting about this is the more that we describe the exact precise feelings as they're happening, the more that they start to kind of dissipate and go away. Sort of like when we're trying to diagnose our chords and why they might not sound clean. We're isolating each string, trying to think about the finger placement. We're working through our problems, right? Just like we work through the problems of physically needing to play this, we need to work through the mental and sort of biophysical problems as well. But another really effective strategy that you can think about to get used to other people watching you is to practice in front of a mirror. It sounds a little silly because it's just you, but literally having that reflection of someone else there watching you will get you used to the idea of playing in front of somebody else. The second core concept I want to talk about is a performance equation. P equals P minus I. This stands for performance equals potential minus interference. This means that your performance is made up of what is your maximum potential that you could possibly ever play, like the best you could possibly physically ever play this piece, minus the interference that you're feeling. So if this is the equation, most people only focus on the potential side. We practice for hours and hours and hours, scales, the piece itself, all these other exercises that we can do. We work so hard. We maybe memorize the whole piece, every single marking, we know every single note, and yet somehow we don't spend any time on the I, the interference part, the part that can, again, lead to that self-doubt and anxiety and stuff that can totally interrupt and affect the performance. So I really like this formula. It's very simple, and it just demonstrates that the potential and the interference actually need to be a little more equal. And maybe this is a new concept for you and you've never really thought about this before, but there is this aspect of like almost the harder we try, the more mistakes can kind of creep in. And it's one of these things that's really frustrating because we want to just sort of let it all go. And when we do that and we relax, we actually don't have many problems at all. Do this exercise with me. Just tap. Use your 2 fingers, and as I'm talking, just start tapping. And you can go at any speed you want, but just listen to my voice and keep tapping and just, kind of think about a steady rhythm, but don't think too much. Just really listen to my voice. And are you noticing that you're keeping a pretty steady rhythm? I hope so. Okay, now I want you to do it again, but this time really try. So don't listen to my voice anymore, but just try your hardest to actually make a very steady, very equal in volume rhythm. Okay, how did that go? Did you notice that the more you were focused on it, it was a little imbalanced, or it was actually harder to keep a rhythm? That is a crazy phenomenon. Why is it that when you're just, sort of distracted, or you're listening to someone else, or just, it can be like pretty good, and then the moment we try, it's like, you start to notice all these problems, right? You start to notice all these things like, wow, one of my fingers is going a little faster than the other, or one of them is playing a lot louder than the other. These are the kind of things that you want to start picking up on. So I want you to do it again, but this time, listen for which finger is maybe going a little faster. Listen very carefully for which finger is maybe hitting a little bit louder or softer. Acknowledge it. Don't stop, but just work through it. Try to be like, I'm going to start to balance them out. So try that now. How did that go? Were you able to start finding the balance and achieving it? This is exactly what we want to do when we're playing. Focusing on the actual sound or feeling or visual of what's happening allows you to tune in, be very present, and immediately start acknowledging and addressing the actual things that are happening. So how would we apply this to a guitar situation? Well, for instance, maybe you're playing and you can start really focusing in on the feeling of the strings on the fingertips. I'm just like really enjoying the feeling, the physical feeling of the strings on my fingertips. It's almost that simple. Feeling is one aspect, sound would be another. I'm going to really enjoy playing this really loud and then really soft. Now, was the tone perfect? Maybe not, but I was able to kind of just tune into the music, tune out self-one, interference. So this is what it's all about. So the other thing we can focus on is visual. We can actually watch our hand play, and sometimes that's a good way of just sort of being present and being aware. When you're focusing on looking at your hands, you're not really able to think about too much else, It's just, you're being present and you're just sort of doing the action rather than like, I'm trying hard to do it. So just to summarize, in order to reduce that interference, there's a few things we can do. We can focus on the feeling of actually playing the strings. We can focus on the sound itself, louder, softer, the tone. We can focus on the visual, what our hands are doing, and just sort of enjoy watching our hands go. However, there's one other thing that we can focus in on to help reduce that interference, and it is the expression. What are we trying to evoke? This is a super important aspect of the playing. You might be able to technically play a piece pretty perfect. However, if it just kind of falls flat and you're not able to play with emotion, you're going to be disconnected from the piece, and I guarantee you the listener is going to be disconnected as well. So what do I mean by playing with a lot of expression? Well, here's a version of Lagrima where I'm going to just be trying to play it as technically as I can, okay? So I'm just focusing on just trying to play it correctly. Pretty flat, right? I mean, it's sort of like, yeah, okay, technically it was pretty much there. But, I could feel some tension. I could also was just not really enjoying it. I wasn't really trying to tell a story. So how do I actually make this more expressive? What can I do? How can I get more in touch with this piece? Well, lagrima means tears, right? So I'm going to just imagine, for instance, even though this is in the major key, it's got this twinge of sadness. I'm going to imagine that I'm seeing maybe an old friend for the first time in a very long time. And maybe they've had some recent tragedies in their life, and we're just meeting. The door is opening, and I'm seeing their eyes for the first time, and we're just sort of sharing this grief together, but in a really beautiful way because we're also so happy to be reconnected. Okay, so the door is opening, and I'm seeing that friend, and we're smiling, but maybe crying at the same time. So that's the other really important one. Apart from feeling, the sound itself, and the visuals, you can actually have an expression and focus on the emotion, the emotional intent behind what you're trying to achieve. So the third core concept from the inner game of music that I want to talk about today is the awareness, will, and trust triangle. He uses a couple triangles in this book and the formulas and stuff. I know it can get a little bit wordy, but this is one to definitely know about. It's something that he refers to often throughout the book, and it's something to be referring to in our lives of performance every day. So awareness is that first one, and this is what we've been talking about for most of the video. Being present, being aware, and just being able to focus on different aspects of our playing as it's happening. So another point of the triangle is the power of will. This is your motivation. This is your goal setting. And you can have long-term goals like I want to be able to perform in front of, 100 plus people in the next 5 years on stage. That could be like a 5 to 10 year goal for you. Or maybe your goal is like, I just want to be able to play through this piece without making any mistakes in front of a small audience of friends and family. So you can have different goals like that. Or I just even want to play through this in one sitting, in one practice session. That can be a much more short-term goal. So when it comes to the power of will, we need to be striving for those goals and have that be your North Star, have that be something that you're dead set on. And the power of will also means staying motivated enough that even if you make a little flub or mistake, you keep on going. You power through and you finish the piece. We have to talk about, again, the self. You are the one making this music. What is your experience? What do you want to get out of this performance? When you make the performance, I know it sounds a little selfish in a way, like making it about you. Like, I know I'm someone who struggles sometimes with like, I want to, play for my audience or something, and I'm really trying to make it a great experience for them. But the more we think about the external, about what they're going to be thinking, that's when self-one can start getting really loud, and you can start, having a lot of self-doubt. So what you want to do instead, what I recommend you do, is what do you want to get out of the experience of playing your instrument in general? You can also take this down to a performance. What do you want out of this one specific performance? That's something that is a really important question. And if you're like, I just want to enjoy myself, I want to play all the way through this piece and play it with a lot of emotion and try to tell this story, it's been you in that practice space the whole time. And it's up to you to now take it out to the world. But think about what you want out of a performance. When it comes to the power of trust, this is probably the most straightforward in some ways. This is simply trusting that your hands know where to go, that you've put in the work, and that you are going to be able to express yourself when playing. This self-confidence is something that can really shine through, and just tell yourself, I've got this. Visualize a successful performance. Take some time to really have almost like a pre-concert ritual that you can think of. I'm going to just imagine myself playing through the piece and imagine myself on stage having a great performance and enjoying myself. And again, that goes back to that goal, right? I'm going to be aware as I play. I'm going to have the goal of just enjoying myself out there and telling the story through this song. And if you can do that, your mind and body will have an innate sense of trust that can be built in. Just feel confident. You've got this. You put in the hard work. I believe in you. You can believe in yourself too. Performance anxiety and mental blocks are something that can affect every musician, but they don't have to define your playing. So if we can get self-one, the inner critic that's constantly nagging at us and maybe telling us you're not good enough or look at all these people or whatever, get it to hush. If we can have self-two be more prominent and more active when we're playing, that's the goal. If we can be aware of the here and the now, the music that's happening here and now through feeling, through sound, through vision, or through the story we're trying to express through the music, that is how we can tune in to our music playing and tune out all the thoughts or the distractions or the audience or whatever. Stop coughing back there, right? So don't worry about them. Or let's say your issue is I play with a ton of tension. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so tense, I'm so tight. Well, what I'm going to actually encourage you to do is play with even more tension, okay? Maybe consider your tension right now a level 5 or so, 5 or 6. I want you to actually feel the muscles that are tense, play a level 10 of tension. Play just as tense as you possibly can. Then relax it all. What do you feel? Relax as much as you can. When you played as tense as you possibly could, were you able to feel more distinctly the muscles that were actually tensing up? I bet you were, right? So then when you go back to your natural state of playing, hopefully you're able to now be aware of which muscles are actually engaging when you're tense, and you can kind of let them subside. So these are just some of the core concepts and exercises in the inner game of music. That's why I totally recommend you check this out, because it covers a wide variety of performance anxiety issues that you may have encountered. And it's full of great little anecdotes of real students that Barry's worked with over the years and all their different problems, from memory flubs to, again, the sweaty hands to, the tension, all that stuff. It's all in the book. So if you have any of these issues, or inevitably when you have these issues, I should say, this book has awesome exercises for being able to work through and overcome that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of a different approach and a different topic than what we've talked about in the other ones, but it's so important. I mean, so much of the music happens in ourself, and it's something that we neglect to think about. We think about, oh, it's the music, it's this instrument, it's the audience, it's always external things. Actually, the reality is, it's you. It is totally you. And it's up to you to make that music happen. The more that we can, again, sort of hack ourselves, or the more that we can understand ourselves, the more that we're able to express the music. It's got to come through you. So you need that self-understanding. So next time you're practicing or performing, think about being more present, more aware. Use one of these strategies. Use the physical, the aural, the visual, anything you possibly can to stay in the moment and let everything else just happen. You're going to enjoy your performance more, and I guarantee you the audience will too. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.